Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up during inflation, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 up front for 3 months plus taxes and fees. Promo rate for new customers for limited time. Unlimited more than 40 gigabytes per month. Slows full terms at mintmobile.com.
You are listening to Women's Running Stories, where exceptional female runners share inspirational stories about their running experiences.
I feel like I'm generally, I am an aggressive person when it comes to running and racing and competition. And I, instead of trying to change myself and just people don't always like that in a woman, or it can be off-putting. Instead of, I just tried to lean into it of that's how it's going to come out in my style of racing of I'm not going to be scared of anyone. I'm not going to, I'll give people respect. Absolutely. But also try not to be scared of the people you're racing against, no matter who it is and the name and how good they are. So tried to fine tune that, but it's taken a long time for sure. Hi, I'm Annie Rodenfels. I'm a professional distance runner for the BAA and for Adidas. I mostly I kind of do everything. I do everything from the mile up to, I have ran once as far as 10 miles in a race, which I did not super enjoy. Beyond that, in my free time, I like video games, I like reading, I like art, and I like coffee. So that's me.
Yes, professional runner Annie Rodenfels does like video games, coffee, and art, and she loves to compete. And we're going to get into that in this Race Report episode, where Annie's going to focus on how it all went down from her perspective at the recent 2024 USATF 6-kilometer National Championships. And as with any race report, there's always more to the story than what happened on race day. And that is definitely true with Annie's story. But before we hear more from Annie, I want to welcome you to Women's Running Stories. I am Cherie Louise Turner. I am the host and producer of this podcast. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. You are in for a treat. So yeah, Annie is a competitive professional runner, originally from Dayton, Ohio, now living in Boston and racing for the BAA team. That's the Boston Athletic Association. They're the same organization that puts on the Boston Marathon. For Annie, it has taken her some time to get into this position of being competitive within the pro field. Annie's running career really got rolling in college. She raced for the Division III or D3 school of Center College in Danville, Kentucky, and there she became a top competitor. Annie is a 3-time NCAA Division III national champion with wins in the 3,000-meter steeplechase and the 5,000-meter. And if you aren't familiar with the National Collegiate Athletic Association or NCAA divisions, in very broad strokes, Division I or D1 is the most competitive division, and D3 is less competitive. To put this in another context, there aren't a lot of professional runners who have come out of the D3 system. So while Annie had an outstanding college career, it still did not make her a top prospect for a professional team after she graduated from college, and that happened in 2019. Regardless, Annie wanted to continue racing after she graduated and see where her running could take her. Annie's first post-collegiate team was the ASICS Greenville Track Club Elite out of South Carolina. Then, in 2021, she signed with the BAA. And with each of these transitions, Annie has leveled up. In college, she developed into a national class competitor in the D3 ranks. As a new pro, she became familiar with racing life outside of the collegiate system. And as a member of the BAA, she's developed into a nationally competitive professional runner. And now that she's built the strength and speed and confidence to go up against other top competitors, Annie's bold, aggressive racing style has begun to shine. Now, like I mentioned up top, this episode is a race report, and it focuses on the 6K, which just took place on July 13th in Canton, Ohio, which is about 3 hours from where Annie grew up in Dayton. The 6-kilometer National Championships is part of the USATF Road Circuit series of races. These races happen all throughout the country, all year long, and each one serves as a national championship for the distance or the type of event that is being held. In addition to being able to earn a national title, competitors are racing for cash prizes and for points. These points go to the series overall, which is decided at the end of the year. This is Annie's third time racing at the 6K National Championships. Last year in 2023, she came in third, and the year before in 2022, she came in second to top pro Kira D'Amato, who set the record on this course that still stands today. Coming into the 6K this year, Annie has been building momentum. In the fall of last year, 2023, in her first 10K on the road, Annie won the prestigious Boston 10K for women, and she followed that up by winning the 5K National Championships in a really competitive field. It was her first national title as a pro. Then coming into 2024, it was all eyes on the Olympic trials, where Annie's ultimate goal was earning a spot on the team going to Paris in the steeplechase. At the trials, Annie threw down. She made a big move early on, and she gave it her all. She finished in 8th place with a new personal best time. And I really liked what Annie had to say about racing at the trials. She said, "I knew the only shot I had at the Olympics was if it was going to be a sub 9-minute, 23-second race, and I decided I would be the one to make sure it was. You always go in wanting to make the team, but I'm happy and proud to walk away knowing I was brave enough to go for the big move, to take my shot, to decide that my best chance on that team was to play to my strengths and then to actually utilize that strategy." Annie had done it. She had raced her race. But even with such a great performance, she hadn't made the Olympic team, and that can be tough to come back from. And this is something that pros deal with all the time. For track and field athletes, a big focus of each year is the Outdoor National Championships. And for U.S. racers, that also determines whether or not you get on the big team. In non-Olympic years, it's the World Championship team that is decided at nationals. And during Olympic years, the National Championships serves as the selection process for the Olympic team. So there's always a lot on the line at nationals. And while it is disappointing when you don't win the big title or you don't get on the big team, as they say, the show must go on. And for Annie, that meant the 6K champs, which happened only 2 weeks after the Olympic trials. And at the 6K race, Annie was looking ahead to lining up with top American pros Emma Grace Hurley, Emily Durgan, and Rachel Smith, all of whom have been featured in previous race reports on the podcast, and I will link to those in the show notes. Also lining up were Natasha Rogers, Abby Nichols, and Amanda Vestry, among other really competitive runners. It was a really strong field. And coming to the line, however difficult it was to overcome her disappointments, Annie would be bringing a strength that she's recognized and cultivated for years. And that is her competitive spirit. And that's where we're going to start this story, with a look at this innate drive that Annie brings to running and racing, which makes her a dynamic and exciting competitor to watch, and a top contender coming in to the 6K. Annie's competitive fire is something she has always had, but being a good competitor is something she has worked on and built for years. So let's hear about it. Now, to tell her story is Annie Rodenfels.
You know, I only did track for 2 years in high school. And I'm definitely just like a very competitive person in general. I've done a lot of other sports, have always been, at my high school, we had an award where there's like an award for intensity. And I think I've won like 8 of them. Like I have 8 plaques that are like the intensity award, and like other different sports that I was doing. So that's definitely something that's just like ingrained in me. But yeah, I don't know. I have always been a very competitive person. I played soccer for 13 years. That would be like the main thing that I did. I also played like basketball and tennis, but like I was mostly a soccer player. And yeah, I just like it's always been something that I've enjoyed. I'm competitive in everything. I don't like playing board games with people because I get a little too upset if I'm not doing well, and I know that about myself. I'm a very passionate 0 or 100 type of person. So I'm either like I can't care at all, or I'm gonna really really care about things. I when I do things, I wanna be the best at them, and I wanna give my best to them and give my all to them. Um, so it's something that's always been ingrained in me, and then has definitely been brought out in some of the really good coaches that I've had. I played soccer in high school, and my high school coach was like super intense, and we would do drills where she would put a ball on the ground, she'd partner us up one on one, and she would say, "I don't care what you have to do at the end of the 3 minutes. One of you has to be holding this ball." Like no rules kind of thing. And it would just be like, go at it. And then my college coach is also an incredibly, incredibly competitive woman. And so we got along just very well. And so it definitely was like even brought out in me more, and like just encouraged that like, I've been told by a lot of people of like, yeah, my college coach used to say like, I can't coach like that extra, like that fire factor of like, you have it or you don't. I can't coach competitiveness out of people. I can try to motivate them more, but like to be someone who is like winning things and like achieving what you want to achieve, there's just like this extra thing that you have that I can't describe. And she was like, you have it. And I've been told that a lot, like that I just, I'm willing to work really hard and to do what it takes to, achieve what I have set out that I wanted to achieve. And so I've always believed that because it's been instilled in me and like these other women coaches who I've looked up to. Yeah, I think, the last few seasons just adjusting to being someone who is like relevant on the line, and like someone who I think people are expecting to make those moves, that took a lot. In Division 3 I adjusted to it. Over time I learned to like I would get on the line and be like, I'm gonna win this, and like go after it. But that didn't just happen instantly. I did work my way to the top. And so then it was like my whole senior year was like, it was easy to get on the line and be like, I can win this, because I knew that my talent was, proving to be, there's only a few other people who would really be competing against me. And so I kind of had to like go through all of that when I became a pro. And definitely for the first 2 years of my like semi-pro career, I wasn't really winning anything except for, local races in South Carolina. So then coming to Boston, and it's like, it's a whole new world again of like, okay, like, you kind of have to put your head down. You have to put the work in. You have to try to find the small things that keep you motivated, because the reality is a lot of the time when you're in those good races, you're not winning, especially like on the track. And so you kind of just have to find like the everyday wins, or like the things that, for someone like me who is so competitive and like I love running anyway, like I'd be doing it even if I wasn't competing. But I do also just really enjoy competing. As a pro, it was like it's way harder to get there because people are just so good, obviously, and like the talent, and like the thing is everyone is working just as hard as you, and everyone is doing those small extra things. And so it's just like a whole nother level. And I feel like really only like this last year, probably starting off with like the New York 5K, I feel like that's really when I've been trying really hard to get on the line and mentally try to believe that I could win and that I had a shot at winning. And that in order to do that, that meant I had to be bold and take moves when maybe people weren't expecting it, or go for times, or try to have these expectations of myself that maybe other people would be like, what, why would you think you could win that, why would you think you could run that, kind of thing. And just kind of cutting out a lot of the extra noise that there can be in the sport. I've been trying to like fine tune that, I think, this year, of being someone who like goes for it and like is not afraid, because I think that's also one of my strengths, but I've had to work on it a lot. This was my third time coming out to the women's 6K, and they've had it it was the fourth year, so I only missed the first one. It's always an attractive race to me personally because it's in Canton, Ohio, which is about 3 hours from where I'm from. I'm from Ohio, so there's not a lot of professional races that I go to in Ohio, and so it's a great opportunity for like my family to come out and watch me. It's actually in the town where Malone University is, which is a Division II college, and my uncle actually ran there back in the day. So it's like, it's a little bit of a fun opportunity. But then in addition, it's only women, and I minored in gender studies in college, and women in sports is something that is like one of my particular interests, and women and female empowerment in sports. Like, it's just like something that I'm like very passionate about. So it's always kind of like in the back of my mind, on my calendar, year round. I'm like, okay, am I going to be able to fit this into my schedule? Will I be able to do it? And it's always just a really awesome race full of like camaraderie. I go to a few of the other road circuit races, and obviously all the women on the roads are just so incredibly nice and welcoming. But there's something specific about this race. I don't know if it's only because it's a women's field, or if it's just because, we're all kind of just in the middle of Ohio, which people aren't really familiar with, like just with each other, or like what it is. But I just always feel like I always get to know my competitors like so much of this race, and just like really enjoy the conversations that I have. But, coming into this race, I, was coming off of the trials, which is just a little bit of like, I think for everyone, just like a really mentally draining, emotionally draining moment. I think for a lot of the pro runners, like, if you are, have any shot at being like top 10 or anything like that, like I think you go into it knowing you need to feel ready to like believe that you can make that team. And so it's always, only a few people actually get that opportunity and the chance, and then actually get to make the team. So I think the majority of people are walking away just kind of like in a slump, and, sad they didn't make it. And it was hard, honestly. I give so much kudos to all the people who then go on and have a full summer of racing. I think I struggle a lot with it. I struggle a lot with doing workouts just immediately after that. Like, even just like when you finish that race and you're on the team, most of the time I'm like, I don't even really want to go cool down. Like, and maybe that's partially an issue with how I structure my season. And, I've wondered if maybe we're putting too much emphasis on, this one race kind of thing. And so in the past, I know I felt like that, even just at US championships, where, it's a world team, which is still a big deal, but it's not the Olympics, which happens every 4 years. And like the Olympic trials is just so much of a heightened event. So yeah, I mean, I did have a race in between the two. I flew home pretty soon after the trials. I live in Boston, so I flew home to Ohio, and I went and ran a race in Kentucky with a bunch of my current members of my college team. They invited me out to run a random 4th of July race in Kentucky that had some prize money. And so that was very fun. It was like the men's team at my college. And so I got to meet all of them, and I got to see my college coach, who I'm very close to. And they just built an indoor track at the school that I went to. So like I got to see the new facilities. And yeah, I think that helped a lot. It was just like a no pressure. I think I was like 5th overall out of everyone, like first woman, obviously, like no pressure, kind of, just racing for the fun of it. And I think that helped with like my mentality going into the 6K. Just like, okay, ready for like another serious event, and like other professional runners and like serious contenders. I also felt like probably all of my contenders in the 6K were going to feel very similar to how I felt. And so I kind of chose to try to change my mindset and try to like get excited about it, instead of focusing on the like the sadness of not making the team to try to use that to my advantage in a way.
Welcome to Canton, Ohio, everybody. We're here at the USATF Women's 6 Kilometer Championships in Canton, Ohio for a speedy morning of racing from Malone College down to downtown Canton, Ohio. This is a point-to-point race, pretty unique.
I came in wanting to win. I have been second before, and I've been third before, and I really wanted to get that win, not just because it's a national title, but because it kind of feels like it's sort of becoming like my race kind of thing. So I felt like I did use my experience racing the last 2 years and coming close each time. I've really relied heavily on that in thinking about how I wanted to race it. I didn't go in necessarily with a set plan of, okay, I'm going to move here, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I just knew that the one thing I needed to do was to make sure that I was with whoever was leading when you kind of make the turn to go down the massive downhill, which is around 4K, I believe, into the race. Because I know that I've made the mistake of falling off maybe around 3K and then thinking I could catch them on the massive downhill, and you just can't because it's such a downhill that, there's just no way for you to go faster because you don't have to put in any effort, essentially, to run the downhill. Nobody does. And then the second you get from the downhill, it's a K of turns around like 2 blocks. And so it's just impossible to then catch up to someone. So you can't do it on the downhill. And then it's very, very easy to get lost, kind of like in cross country, and you turn a corner and then you see someone and they look like they're so much further ahead because it's short turns. So that was my only goal, was to be with the people who were in front going down into the hill. That was kind of the plan that I had.
Yeah.
It was not temperature-wise hot, but it was definitely humid. It was probably like 73 or so, but I think it was quite humid. I didn't mind it very much. The race I did in Kentucky was horribly humid, so I think that also really helped a lot. And I'd been training in Ohio for that week, so I think I adjusted a little bit to just that humidity. I ended up running and warming up with a bunch of the women. And I think as we were walking to the starting line, I think I turned to Emma Grace and I was like, man, do you ever feel like at these races, you're just like, oh, I really need to concentrate on this race, but you're just enjoying talking to other women so far. I feel like that's how I was thinking. I was like, oh, damn, I really need to I need to actually think about this race that's coming up, just because I was having such a good time connecting with people, and I'm an extrovert, so talking to people that I don't get to talk to all the time. And so then I was like, okay, game mode, you gotta kind of get focused and get ready for this. It's kind of fun to get on the line and be like, oh, so fun, we're laughing, and then it's you get on the line, you're I am going to take this all out, and you're gonna have to run so hard to beat me, kind of thing. It's fun, there's joy in it, and then it makes winning and doing well and getting the best out of yourself it's so much more fun when that happens. I want to win a race by making everyone also give their best. I don't want to win a race because people don't compete or don't want to try hard. And so and I think a lot of my other competitors are also like that. It's hard to reach this level and not enjoy competing. But yeah, in regards to approaching the line, I feel like these races on the road, I just feel like there's, you have the people coming down from the marathon who could do well at it. Somebody like Emily Durgan, who is just very consistent and can be good at any distance. But then you also have people like Rachel Smith, who, obviously put together a good trial. She's always there, she's such a queen on the track. You have Natasha, who you is so gritty, you just absolutely never count out. You had Amanda Vestry coming off of a really good year. And then you have Emma Grace Hurley, who just I think surprises people again and again. And so it's just you're just ready for anyone, with some of those people specifically in mind. I thought, okay, someone we're not going to be sitting around. I'm assuming someone's going to push the pace. This is not people who want to sit back and let the race happen to them. And it was good. It went out faster than I thought it would. I think potentially people were waiting to cue off of me, I think potentially, which I was a little bit expecting. I think a lot of people had in mind how I've been racing this year, which is kind of going for it from the beginning. And I think people also knew that like I had come to this race a few times and, had been so close several times. So I think people were waiting for me to maybe take it out. So I chose not to, kind of just throw people off. And I wasn't sure where my fitness was. So I let other people take it out, and it went out fast for sure. And so, yeah, I mean, at, first mile, I think the clock said like 4:47, 4:48. So, we were moving pretty fast. So I was like, oh, okay. We're taking it pretty quick. Around the 2 mile, I felt like we hadn't sped up, but just maintained that pace. And a lot of people had kind of fallen off the back. So kind of around that point, I was realizing that people were slowing down a little bit. I could tell that people were fatiguing, and I felt like I was feeling all right. So I decided to not necessarily make a surge, but I just chose to maintain that effort. And that's about when you go up a little bit of a hill right before the downhill. And, I separated myself on the hill by just a little bit. And then I just made sure to, on the downhill, just like really open up and like lean into the downhill. The trick on downhills is pretty much just to not restrict yourself at all. People are really tempted to like kind of put on the brakes a little bit, but the secret is like it's no effort to like let yourself go and just like completely run kind of fast downhill. So I tried to just do that. And then, going into the last K, like I said, it's a few turns around a block, and just, using my cross country antics, it's just like, it's so easy to lose people when you're making turns. So really trying to emphasize like speeding up as much as you possibly can. At that point, you're obviously super tired. So it is hard to like actually speed up, but just try to like make sure that no one can come and catch you, so that if someone is close and they make a turn right after you, they turn and they're like, oh my God, she's gained on me just in that little bit. And it's just like mentally very difficult to see that and to try to then like make a push to catch that person. So I try not to look behind me in races ever. So, just in case someone was there, just tried to keep my foot on the gas pedal and, push. And then pretty much going into the straightaway, it's long, but I could tell that no one was around me. So at that point, honestly, I was trying to watch the clock because I knew I was somewhat close to the course record, because unfortunately I was there when it was when it had been gotten and I had lost. So I knew around the time it was. So tried to keep pushing until I was like, okay, I don't have it. And then kind of the last 10 seconds just let off the brakes and like tried to enjoy the win.
Women's 6-kilometer champion, Annie Rodenfels from Boston Athletic Association. Dominating performance here today. Annie Rodenfels, Amanda Vestry.
Most of the time, especially for me, when I do win races, it tends to, it happens at the very last second. I outkick someone. So, 10 seconds was about how long I was like, yeah, I'm winning this, that I knew for sure. But it was just very cool. My niece and my nephew, who I love, got to watch me. They were there at the finish line and they've never seen me race in person before. They're like 5 and 3, and they just recently moved back to like my hometown with my parents, like literally like 2 weeks before. So I got to spend like so much time with them, and I try very hard to be their favorite aunt. I put in a lot of work over FaceTime and stuff. So it was awesome. Yeah, they were just like running around and they were screaming for me, and it was very cool. I love being like, a role model for them, and like telling them that they can like do what they want and like run really fast, and they like to race me a lot and stuff like that. So I saw them and I was like, yes, like this is awesome. Just enjoying the feel of like, I mean, winning is always fun, but that just made it like so much more special. So, just like happy that I had done it, happy that I had been able to turn around, mentally and emotionally from everything that happened at the trials to, being able to use that as momentum to push forward and, come out with the win on that particular day. So it was special for sure.
It was a special win. After an Olympic trials that was in so many ways a big success, but also disappointing, Annie bounced back. This win also comes after 2 years of standing on the podium, and now she is finally at the top spot. In addition to all of that, of course, she got to win in front of a hometown crowd, including her niece and nephew. I mean, what a cool experience to watch your aunt win a huge race like that. A big congratulations to Annie, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing this story. It was such a pleasure to talk to Annie, and I am so excited to see where she goes from here. Annie did mention to me that right after the 6K, she did take a bit of a break and is looking forward to the fall season. You can expect to see Annie defending her titles at both the Boston 10K for women, which happens in October, and the 5K National Championships, which happens in New York City in November. To keep up with Annie and all her racing coming up, you can follow her on Instagram. Of course, I will provide a link to her account in the show notes. You can also look to the show notes for previous race reports, including those featuring some of the other racers that were mentioned in this episode, Rachel Smith, Emma Grace Hurley, and Emily Durgan among them. And please catch up on all the racing action that has taken place so far this year. The next race on the USATF Road Circuit calendar is the 20K National Championships, which will be taking place on September 2nd in New Haven, Connecticut. You can expect to see a race report soon thereafter. And thank you so much for being here. I always appreciate you listening, and I would love it if you would rate and review the show wherever you listen. You can rate podcasts on Spotify, you can rate and review on Apple, and yeah, I would really appreciate it if you did that. That's going to be a wrap from me. I am Cherie Louise Turner, the host and producer of Women's Running Stories. And until next Tuesday, I do wish you empowering, joyful strides forward.
Women's running. Women's running stories.
There is no hood like parenthood. When you meet a fellow parent, you just kind of get each other on a whole nother level. Hi, I'm Kanika Chadda Gupta. I'm a former CNN journalist, mom of 3, including twins, and host of That's Total Mom Sense, the podcast. I interview changemakers on their life lessons, legacy, and superpower of intuition, aka their mom sense and dad sense. I've had some pretty amazing parents on my show.
Hey, what's up? I'm Kelly Rowland.
Hi, this is Chelsea Clinton. It's me, Bobby Brown. Can't wait to share my story.
Episodes release every Thursday. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Join my tribe at thatstotalmomsense.com and follow me on Instagram at Kanika Chadda Gupta. I'm thrilled to be on this journey with you.